the meeting?
Good.
Okay. This is Director Berg starting the meeting of the Finance Committee. And we are on the agenda item number 1, call the meeting to order. Number 2, select a committee chairman. I have volunteered to assume that role as chairman today.
I voted for it.
We did have a vote. I also voted yes for that. Is there any public comment for items that are not on the agenda today?
Yeah, I believe they're both from Oppenheimer, those
Yeah.
two. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Scott, we have items 4 and 5 coming up here, and you asked that I consider switching 5 first.
Please.
So we're going to tackle item 5 on the agenda first. Ojai Valley Sanitary District OVSD wastewater revenue refunding bond series 2016. Take us.
Yeah, I'll give you a little summary and we'll go from there. So the district currently has a bond. It was originally let, I think, in well, it was last let in 2016. I think it in and of itself was a refinance. There is approximately $3.5 million on it. Interest rates are such, well, and it's $3.5 million on it. It's callable on September, it may actually be September 2nd because of the way the holiday, but roughly September 1st is when it's callable. What that means is the district really has a couple of options. Number 1, the district can do nothing. Number 2, interest rates are slightly lower now than what they were when it was originally let. So it can be refinanced using a bond underwriter, and that's going to possibly save, it will save, at least projected right now, to save the district some money to the tune of around $12,000 per year over the 10 years. That's a second option. The third option is they call that redeeming, by the way. The third option is the district could redeem the fund at the same time, go out and ask for additional bond monies. The reason why that may be beneficial is that the extra cost, whether it's for bond counsel, for the bond underwriter, would be already covered by the refinance. And if you wanted to bring in more money cash-wise, you can do that with a negligible additional expense. The end rate for that is around 3.05% on that. I did invite the bond counsel, both Jeffrey Lan and Michael. And if you guys or anyone has any questions, they're available for any questions you may have.
Steve, yes, go ahead.
Okay. If we just call the bonds toward the end of this calendar year, you refer to as redeeming, then we're just taking money out of our general fund and buying back bonds.
Correct.
Okay. There was something in the report that talked about buying them back at par, but then there was something that at least implied to me that it was going to cost us more than par to buy the bonds back if we redeem them or if we call them. And I don't understand the difference there. Are we talking about accrued interest from whenever the last bond payment was made to when the call date is, or is there some other factor at play here? What's causing us to pay more than par for any bonds that we redeem?
Is that a question the Oppenheimer team can help me with?
Yeah. The redemption of the bonds.
We need to crank up that volume.
Hold on, Jeff, we can't quite hear you.
Okay.
We're 100% up. Yeah.
Let me make sure I'm on 100% volume, guys. Hold on. I am, but I will speak loudly, and so maybe you can hear me a bit better. Is that better?
No, not yet.
Maybe we should just try out. Michael, can you say something to see if your audio is better?
Can you hear me any better?
Much better.
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
All right, well, I can take this one, Jeff, while you
Sure. Yeah,
try to
go ahead.
correct your microphone. So the bonds are callable beginning September 1st, 2026. But what that means is we can close a financing up to 90 days before that date. And so if we were to close in June, the cost of defeasance of the bonds includes the 9/1/26 bonds that aren't callable. And that also includes the accrued interest on those bonds. So that's why the cost is a little bit higher than the outstanding par amount.
It's, okay, it's more than par because there's accrued interest that hasn't yet been paid.
That's right. You're essentially making that payment with the interest up to that point due early. So that's why it's included and tacked on top of the outstanding principal.
Perfectly understandable then. The bonds that are out there right now, as I understand it from one of the tables in the report, are 4% bonds. And the assertion in the staff report was that the rate right now is under 3%. But if I go all the way to the back of our packet, where it's talking about the refunding bonds, specifically, I'm looking at page 115, where the title is bond pricing. That says all those are 5% bond.
Mhm.
What happened there?
Michael, can you guys hear me now, or do you need to keep it
That's
going?
better.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take this one, Michael. So the 5% that you're seeing, and I think I'm following along with you. That rate there, if you're looking at the bond pricing page, what you're seeing there, that rate is the coupon rate at 5%. If you look next to it, you'll see something called yield. So
Yes.
the yield is what you're paying. So the yield that we put together is, it starts at, in 2026 at 2.11%, goes up to 2.72% in 2037. That's your effective yield that you're paying. The investor, the bond investor, gets 5% on their bond investment. And that is reflected in what's called the bond premium. So the bond investor purchases your bonds at a higher price than par. And in exchange for purchasing those bonds at a higher price than par, they get this higher coupon. However, because we're generating more proceeds through the sale of the bonds at a premium, you're issuing less debt. So you don't have to issue as many bonds, and thereby your effective yield is much lower. And that's what is represented there. So if you look at, another way to look at it also is if you take a look to the next column on that page, the price, you can see how that's reflected in the bond premium. So that's how we're doing our calculations. So you can see that they're purchasing that bond, 103, 106, and you can see how it escalates. And that's how much so they're buying it for more proceeds. They're buying it for more than par, generating more proceeds, and effectively putting you in a position where you don't have to issue as much debt, and that brings down your effective yield.
I know all those words strung together that way. I'm not sure I understand. So this is saying if a bond investor buys, say, a $10,000 bond with a maturity date of 2037, that they are actually paying $12,000 for the bond? That's the price?
The price, I don't have a dollar. I see the price there is 120. Yeah.
That's right. More or less. A little bit more than that, but yeah. And those excess proceeds go to the benefit of the district. And that's how we're able to lower the borrowing amount, and it lowers the effective yield on the borrowing amount.
Okay.
So another way of looking at it, that's sort of the trade-off that happens. The tax exempt bond investors are looking for a greater interest income, and they're willing to pay more for these tax exempt bonds in order to achieve the greater interest income, but you are get the benefit of generating more bond proceeds and by issuing less debt.
I'm used to seeing it go the other way. I'm dealing with the treasury. I get a discount when I buy, say, a $5,000 bond, pay less than 5,000 for it. It
Right.
comes back to me at par.
Right. Now, and there
This is
are
the other way
discount
around.
structures. Yeah, and there's certainly discount structures. We just, the industry standard right now, especially for an entity such as yourselves that has a high rating, that's the industry practice, is to do it in the premium structure as opposed to the discount structure.
Okay. Okay.
Is there a recommendation that came from this discussion?
Yeah, I think it's prudent that, well, there's a couple things that we didn't discuss. One issue that I don't think is prudent would be to extend the terms of the existing bonds. I think it would be prudent to keep the term of the existing bond the same as it is right now, which is 10 years from the callable date, so another 10 years. And so I guess I would make a recommendation that we keep that into mind. The other question, I think the recommendation is to refi. I do think it's money saved. If we refi, it's going over the course of 10 years, it will save $130,000. That's net of cost for the bond counsel and for the underwriter. So I would make that recommendation. The question that I don't know, and that I would be looking for some feedback from the finance committee is there any appetite for more money, borrow more money, or to not to borrow more money?
Director Quilisi, can you think of a reason that we borrow more money right now?
The first reason that I would think of, and I think we are all constrained not to talk about earlier session today, it would be that we have a CIP that is a bit larger than what we expect to be able to execute out of current income.
And this potential need for the money come into focus until a year or two from now. Is that?
So you're talking about other money, I think. This suggestion here is separate from the discussion that we had earlier today. And this is simply about, should we, I believe, should we get a jump start on our CIP by putting out more bonds than we need to pay off the 2016 3.8 million or whatever?
Is there an advantage to that?
The advantage would be, well, the way I see it is you're going to save $136,000-ish to refinance the existing bond. And that's net. If you wanted to add anything to it, you're going to be doing it at a rate of around 3.05%, which is pretty inexpensive money.
Where did that number come from?
That number came from the bond underwriter, if I remember correctly. It was summarized on page.
Yeah, that came from us.
Yeah, I think it's presented here. It's on page 107 or 108 of the packet.
Yeah. And I would add, Scott, that rate assumes that we keep the same term of 10 years.
Yes.
If we were financing over 30 years for a new project, the rate that I'm looking at shows a 4.35. So just wanted to make that clear.
I believe it's on page 107.
Yeah, it's 108. Well, there's a summary on 108, it looks like.
108, okay, yeah.
Are we looking at the page entitled Bond Summary Statistics?
It's titled,
2 pages before that.
yeah, it's the page, it's not sources and uses, it should be titled
Okay,
Um, it's just a summary. It's titled Ohio Valley Sanitary District 2026 wastewater revenue refunding bonds for discussion purposes only as of February 20th, 2026. And then it's a pretty basic summary of the various scenarios that we put together.
And that is all predicated and assumed on a $4 million of new money. The $4 million, frankly, is a little bit of a reach into a hat. $4 million approaches what is still outstanding from FEMA. That's where the $4 million.
Oh,
That's where the $4 million came from. So if it wasn't, it's not that I have 4 million. It's in essence.
it wasn't tied to particular CIP
No, it was not tied to CIP.
items.
It was money that was at one point was in the district's coffer for CIPs and spent, and now we're waiting on reimbursement from FEMA. Ish, right? And I think we're at that money, 3.7 ish. So I just rounded to 4 million.
but it's also at a very, very low rate. It's at
3.05 is the rate. And so I don't have a recommendation as far as trying to get new money or not. I don't have a recommendation on that. I do think it is prudent that we try to refi. We can save $130,000. It's not big money, but I think it shows earnest fiscal management.
I would, and I think consider recommending that to the board. Final decision.
Yeah.
The general.
I think it makes sense. The refunding, even refunding plus new money, but how much? I'm not sure.
Maybe that should be part of the board proposal, that discussion is placed about
About how much.
how much, right?
I would agree. I confess out of my financial ignorance again, why, if back at the very end of the packet where it talks about 5% bonds that have an actual yield of 2.1 to 2.7%. Here, we're talking about 3.05 to 3.34 interest.
Yeah, I can, if I can clarify it for you, absolutely. If you look at that summary page, so there's two rates to look at. You have your true interest cost, right? And that is the true interest cost shows, rates of, if you're keeping the term the same at 2037, your true interest cost is either a 2.67% or 2.63%. And that represents your average rate. So that's your arbitrage yield. That's your average rate. Okay. If you look below that and you look at the end true interest cost, so that represents both your average rate and the issuance costs. So your associated cost of issuance get incorporated.
Okay.
Yeah.
But both the 2.67 and the 2.63 are higher than what we see at the back of the packet until we get way into the up years. Or is this supposed to be an average over the 10-year span?
Yeah.
Because it went from 2.1 to 2.7.
Yes.
And then you're saying that the average is 2.67.
Yes. That's correct. Yeah, that's your average. That's your arbitrage. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, and I mean, it also takes into account that the premium that's involved. So there's a lot of components to it. It's just a function of how bonds are priced. They're priced not at par, which would be, you pay 1,000, you get 1,000 in bonds. They're priced at either a premium or a discount. Here we're showing premium bonds, and when we're calculating the true interest cost to the district, it takes into account the excess the excess that you're receiving for the sale and with a premium bond structure, it's taken into account that these are priced at 5% coupons versus a 2.5 or 2.6 yield. Those are all taken into an account. So what we like to quote oftentimes is the all-in TIC, which is that higher number, the 3.05, because that includes not just the rate you're paying on the bonds, but all the costs associated with issuing the bonds.
And I see that the amount year by year is not the same, so it's a little harder to figure out what the average is as well.
Yeah, that's right. It's not fully level amortization. You can see, yes, it escalates, correct.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm agreeable to recommending to the board, we do both funding of the 26 and additional funding, which would apply to our CIP amount to be decided by the full board. And of course, if it's different from 4 million, then that changes all the numbers too. At least it's calculable pretty quickly.
Scott, that sounds pretty good. I mean, it makes sense to me too, so.
The way I understand it, I'm taking notes. The way I understand it is the finance committee recommends both the refinance of the existing bonds, 10 years, and additional funding to be decided by the board.
It's clear that the refi would save us money. Fine. Beyond that, I think the board needs to understand, general manager and staff, the totality of our CIP right now, which, as I recall, is somewhere around 40 million. What's that look like time phased? If we had our druthers about how quickly to do any of this stuff. And then I guess it would be something for a bond manager to recommend to us, or an underwriter, because they're just looking at risk and setting prices. A bond manager to say, if it's the 3.8 plus 4 or whatever, we just go out, let's say it's 4, we just go out and sell 7.8 million in bonds right now, start paying interest on them? Or could we phase the sales based on our expected expenditures CIP? Because I'm not sure, not all the money, that we couldn't spend it all in 1 year. And full disclosure, also on the Ojai School District Citizens Oversight Committee, bond measures that the school district still has running. And it's not just a matter of figuring out if they spent the money properly, but when have they sold all the bonds? These were ones that were approved years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. And they, in the amount of 45 million. They sold the last 13 million of that 45 last year. So they actually held off selling more than 2/3 of the bonds until they actually needed the money for whatever, for their CIP.
So the bond manager.
I guess that's what a bond manager does, in part, And I don't know.
I think you might be referring to a municipal advisor. Sometimes there's synonymous terms like bond manager and municipal advisor. And a lot of times a municipal advisor, which is separate from us, can assist a public agency in their bond program and how to structure new money proceeds and how to time it. They're a fiduciary that has that capacity to provide advice on appropriate structuring. So that may be something that you guys would have use for if it were something the board wants to consider.
Good idea.
Clearly, we would be paying off or refunding the 2016 bonds immediately. We just call them all. Yes. Call them as quickly as we can call them. Pay that off. Then when do we sell the rest of it, if there is any rest of it? And how does that relate to our need for cash, CIP? It seems like a good idea.
It does too, yeah. I think the board can discuss it in detail
And I think we need a little more advice from the general manager and staff as to what the real cash flow requirements of an ideal CIP would be. I want to go refund plus 40 million. Although, because even if some of the plus is sellable right now, who knows how hard it would be or how much of a discount we have to pay in effect to sell them in out years to get the rest of that 40 million.
Okay, Scott, you're pretty clear then?
Is that,
I do.
that's enough?
Yes.
I think we concluded item 5.
I'm completed with 5, yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you guys' time.
For attending and helping us here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Guess we're clear to proceed with
Item
the
4.
other item for discussion is Ojai Valley Sanitary District Investment Advisory.
I'm confused. Guys that we just talking to, they're not from PFMAM. They're from Oppenheimer.
They're from Oppenheimer.
Is a different kind of financial advisor.
Oppenheimer was the bond under, the reason I approached them or we were in contact with each other is Oppenheimer was the,
OIP.
they were the bond, the bond underwriter of the refi in 2016.
Okay,
So they've already worked for Ojai Valley Sanitary District.
10 years ago.
Yep, 10 years ago doing the refi then. And that's how I knew of them.
I'm more comfortable with this kind of a relationship. I have to say, Ojai School District does things in an odd way. The bond manager was also the construction manager and was school district staff.
Ouch.
Wow.
Scott,
All of those are related to spending. Yeah. You notice that?
Yes.
Yes.
we were focused a little bit on item 4 here. We were discussing possibly ways to save money because it was brought out that $25,000 minimum charge may not be earning that form of base.
They're just following the agreement that was signed, yay, those many years ago.
And there was, I guess you had a couple of recommendations here.
I don't think we ever had 25 million.
I don't think we did
We
either.
certainly don't now. And of the reserves that we have right now is around 12 or 13. A bunch of that is fenced.
Correct. And a bunch of that is in either, the majority of it is in the county, some of it is in Leif. And even on top of that, some of it that's managed by PFM is in PFM
The pool.
pool, which is just in essence a cash account. It's a savings account in essence.
It all happens within the limitations that were kept to under law.
Correct.
So we don't get into trouble with proper investments in that.
No,
Well, so that, yeah, there's a hand.
that's some of my questions.
Yeah, that's some of the questions. So if you want me to, I'm happy to kind of lay out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so PFM is a subsidiary of US Bank. A subsidiary of PFM is both Camp Term and Camp Pool. And the district's custodian of the bond, of our investment bonds, is also US Bank. PFM, which we have a contract with, charges a minimum of $25,000 to really get your most annually. To really get your most bang for your buck out of PFM, you ought to have $25 million with them being invested. If you don't have the $25 million, you're in essence, you're paying a premium for this $25,000 minimum. What we have with them right now is they have invested about $1.65 million that has been advised on either mortgage-backed securities or some paper. Yeah, there's some corporate paper in there, and then
Treasury paper.
and some treasury paper. Yep, that's right. And about $6 million of it is in this Camp Pool. And Camp Pool is a short-term liquid pool that it yields okay right now. But it's liquid, so you're not looking out into the distance. Typically, the yield curve is such that the further out you are, the more you're going to, more interest you'll garner. In any event, with conversations with Robert, and you all have met Robert, he's presented here. We took a look at it, and both Robert and I look at it, and
Robert Montoya.
yes, Robert Montoya, and it's for the board's decision, but both of us question whether or not it's prudent for us to continue investing $25,000 minimum to have PFM do the work that they're doing.
Now, the oddity in all of this is that Camp Pool, Camp Term, and probably, or at least possibly, some other aspects of the money that's invested by special districts with the state is also managed by PFMAM.
Correct.
And so I'm a little curious what that costs.
I am also curious, and I could dive into it, but I haven't been able to really nail that down myself. If perhaps I'm wrong, but it feels like the district may be paying fees on top of fees, but I'm not so sure about that.
The $1.5 million that you mentioned, held by US Bank.
And let me zoom out one last little bit.
No, we're paying them a certain amount. It's 25,000 manage $1.5 million.
Correct. In essence, it is because we can contract with Camp Pool separately. Camp Term, frankly, is really not much difference than either LAIF or the county. And so, yes, in essence, we're spending $25,000 to have them manage the 1.6 million. Yep.
Needs to be considered.
And yeah, and so as an example, I have gone out, I have found a different advisor who it appears to be set up to invest with smaller special districts. And so before I came with an idea, I wanted to make sure there was a plausible solution of the idea. And so I know of one that exists. The other question that kind of came up through this whole discussion that I haven't broached yet is that the district has some investments that they don't reach maturity until 2031, I think 31 through 34, 2031 through 2034, which currently exceeds our new policy. So in January, the board adopted a new policy which has a 5-year limit on investments. So we're exceeding that 5-year limit. They were purchased everywhere from 2016, 2017, and 2019. Those dates, they were within our policy. because at that time, the policy allowed 20-year maturities. And I'm still trying to figure out what the limitations are from California or from government code. That I don't know, is whether it was,
We have a man on the screen that spell government code. Dennis?
Yeah, I also don't know that off the top of my head. Scott mentioned to me the potential for a 5-year term on those. And I don't know if that's just a policy decision or if that's actually mandated by state law. We'll have to look into that.
Yes, some information on the provenance of government code 53601 really be useful. If 53601, it doesn't, in fact, at least my reading of it, doesn't say long bonds are a violation. It talks about medium-term bonds, it defines them, but it doesn't say long, I'll call them long bonds, anything over 5 years. I did not read anywhere that it said you're not allowed to do that. But there was the implication, at least, the staff report, that that was the case. And I haven't yet been able to find it. So I'd really like to understand if FMAM, first of all, if they were actually our advisors, 2016, 17, 19.
they were not. We
FMAM is certainly a familiar name to me.
yeah, they were contracted with the district on January 2nd of 2019.
19.
Yeah, so the 16 and 17 purchases were prior to
The
PFM.
2019 was done by PFM-AM. Okay. But I don't know right now, and I worry that I don't know whether anything has changed in the state code to make the assets that we hold contrary to state code. There was some implication of that in what I was reading in our packet. But I don't understand it all. So I don't really know if we were violating any part of state code. And if we were not at the time, but at some subsequent point after 19, let's say, or prior to that, if a change in the code took place before 2019, if there was anything done that was contrary to state law. I would hope that the FMAM would understand that. But setting that question aside for the moment, since none of us know the answer. Another question would be, once we changed our investment policy, once we changed the OVSD investment policy, say nothing more 5-year maturity, what was PFMAM's responsibility with regard to all of our investments after we made that change? Were they supposed to liquidate our long bonds and repurchase short bonds, call them short for 5 years? What's the responsibility there? Can you enlighten me at all, Dennis, on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would probably need direction from us on that. I don't think, I'm not sure that
Changing our policy is not sufficient direction? Or at
Yeah,
least
I mean,
say, you changed your policy, what do you want me to do?
yeah. And
You
I'm
say-
assuming they were kept in the loop on that policy change and provided a copy of our
I think
policy.
so.
PFM, I asked PFM both this, 2.5 months ago and 15.5 months ago to review the investment policy. They're the ones that provided the input that the 5-year is
A more prudent policy.
correct.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But we are still holding some long bonds.
Still holding, yeah, some long bonds. Yep. I'd have to go, I'd have to go back and look at the
I
numbers.
have to ask somebody from PFM, why is that?
I have asked and I'm still trying to pull the answers in. I'm trying.
They're already charging us fees that are way out of proportion to the rack rate that's in the contract. Are they doing anything?
No, they are looking, they are looking from direction from staff to make any investments, which I would contend, I contend that I'm looking for them as our advisor to make some recommendations to staff that staff can then bring to the board for.
After all, we're paying them 25,000 a year
Correct.
to advise us on something. And if it's only advising us on investing 1.6 million, that's almost a clerk's job. It's pretty good work if you can get it. So we have $1.6 million. PFM, I guess, is directly managing. We have just under 6 million camp pool, which PFMAM is managing under a different contract with some state agency, I guess. Okay. And then that still only adds up to 7.5 million. And where's the other 10 million of our fenced reserves?
Approximately $750,000. It's going to depend on what day. About $750,000 is with our bank, and that's
Okay, Leif in the county.
and about 350,000 is with Leif, and then depending on the time of the year, the remainder is with the county. With the county pool.
Is somebody managing the county pool?
No, the county pool is
Like a money market?
it's like a money market fund, and it is simply, the tax base gets collected and we draw from it when necessary. The money,
Ultra short-term stuff.
yes, which is really where camp pool is at also. The term of camp pool and the county is about the same. So it's camp term. Camp term goes out a little further, and it's the 60 to 365, 60 day to 365 day. The camp pool in essence is short term.
So all of the long bonds are in that $1.6 million.
Yes, all the long bonds in the $1.6 million.
I think Mr. Montoya is right. It is not fiduciarily prudent to continue our relationship with them for the direct managing of that 1.6 million. Sure. You're saying camp pool and camp term are both in essence money market funds, but with shorter or longer term assets to produce that money market rate?
Camp pool is a short money market fund. Camp term is different. Camp term is managed, and it is managed on a 60 day to a 365 day maturity.
Okay.
And we, as the district, if we wanted to use that, we would tell them, hey, we want a portion laddered for 90 days. We want another portion laddered for 180 days. And we have the availability, the option of laddering it as we see.
We could do self-direction of our piece of what's in camp pool if we move it to camp term.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Camp pool, though, is ultra short term.
Camp pool is ultra short term.
And Leif and the county are also ultra short term.
In essence, yes.
That's our liquidity, you said, was the county money.
Correct.
I'm not sure why Leif is in there. Are we just supporting the operation of another government, another county government entity?
Sounds like that to me. So it sounds like the 300 and some $1,000 that we have in LAIF was deposited pre-2020. There has been no withdrawals against it, as far as I know, nor Allison knows, and there have been no deposits to it. And so it just,
Is there a management fee that goes?
I don't know.
Okay. I certainly think we need to understand. We're painfully aware now of what PFMAM's management fees are on the $1,000,006. And didn't see it right offhand here, what the LAIF and county numbers were. You said LAIF was around 300,000
I believe it's 300,000.
and county was in the millions.
In the millions, absolutely. It's going to be.
Certainly bigger than what PFMAM is directly managing for 25,000 a year.
Yes. Yeah. The county, I mean, it'll draw down as we get lower in the year, but it will spike up after tax rolls are received.
Okay, and the custodian for what PFMAM directly manages and what's in camp pool, camp term, it's all money that's managed by PFMAM under one vehicle or another.
Yes, PFM AM manages is the camp, right currently they manage the camp term for us. They manage,
Money in camp term?
I'm sorry, camp pool, yep, camp pool. They manage the camp pool and they manage
They manage camp pool for us and a whole lot of other people.
Correct.
So it's a big bucket. Excuse me.
Scott, you have a recommendation at the end of this presentation that says the finance committee should consider a recommendation for the district to initiate RFQ, professional financial investment advisory services. And then they would be graded and scored and brought to the board for consideration.
As a potential replacement for PFMAM on the $1,000,006.
Either on the $1,000,006 or if it would be prudent for the district to pull out of the camp pool and have another method, or would you even put it into LAIF? LAIF, camp pool, and the county are really not that different from each other. And so the return on any of those three, and so I'm a licensed engineer. I feel very comfortable in the engineering side of things. I understand the finance enough to know what I don't know, and I think it would be prudent for us to have a financial advisor that knows more about the finances than I know.
Oh, that's good.
Well, it could be to our advantage to do that, but I still have some questions. We know what it costs for direct management of the $1,000,006 now. I don't know, maybe someone does. What is the cost, the management of the almost 6 million that we have in the camp pool?
I don't know.
And it's going to be some percentage of whatever we have that is actually spread presumably with the same structure over all of the special districts that have money in the camp pool. I would like to understand what the cost is of having money in LAIF, what the cost is having money in the county pool. I'm also wildly curious who's doing that management. But the first thing I'd want to know is what does it cost us to have that money there? And if let's say you said Oppenheimer, you said put out RFP, but and I read the whole 117 pages, but I don't remember it all straightforwardly. What kind of, was there a speculation in there as to what it would cost? I thought it was 0.12% instead of 0.1%.
Correct. Yeah, I reached out to a couple of agencies nearby.
OIP was the people we were talking to.
That was Oppenheimer. OIP is Optimized Investment Partners.
Oh,
So
sorry.
we were talking with Oppenheimer is the bond, yep,
O's mixed up.
the bond underwriters. Optimized Investment Partners is a group that was referred to me by a couple of other special districts in California. Their rate is 12 basis points, so 0.12%. They don't have a minimum on that. And what they would, at least my understanding is what they would do is they would look at our cash flow needs. They would then ladder out as needed investments to match our cash flow needs. The idea being is the longer the duration typically yields you the better interest rate. But you also don't want to get yourself into a jam where you're short on cash flow.
Sure.
And so that was, it was an example. I found one that works. And I figured if one works, there must be others. But I think it would be prudent for if we were to go out, it would be prudent to have requests for qualifications.
If there's someone like OIP currently managing the county pool.
Okay.
And it's 12 basis points or less. It seems like it would simplify things for us. Put it all in one place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is that. I think the only difference is the county pool is short term. It's the duration, whether it's days or weeks, the county pool is short term.
Okay. So if we were in camp term, we could at least have a slight advantage, somewhat longer term maturities.
Yes. Yep. In the 60-day to 1 year range. That's their, so they don't do anything shorter than 60 days for camp term, and they do nothing longer than 365 days.
Okay. But we don't know what that costs.
I believe it was in their packet.
In there?
Yeah, I believe it was 0.16.
But again, no minimum.
Points. And again, no minimum.
Okay.
And it's self-directed, which then requires us to do our own analysis, try to match our cash flows, and we're limited to our understanding. And admittedly, my understanding on financials, I think there's probably people out there better at this than me with the finances.
I didn't like the school district having, well, I'm sorry, not the school, separate subject again. The finance director for the city of Ojai is in charge of investing Ojai's reserve funds. Solely, and she's a very nice lady, but I don't know her qualifications match up with anyone that we might otherwise contract with.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how much yield any one of these things is different from any of the others. And you know, I read these reports as best I can, FM that are part of every monthly packet. But they say, here's an interest rate if we liquidate everything now. I think that was cost to, or yield to market.
Yep.
And then there was yield to maturity. I don't know yet that yield to maturity, if maturity is more than 5 years out, if that's still legal. That's a question. And I know what they're charging us, having all that stuff. But I don't know what it costs for any of the other money that we have anywhere right
Steve,
now.
do you want staff to find out if in violation for having ones that are maturing beyond?
Well, I would appreciate some advice from Dennis as to Government Code 53601. And if there's any other piece of the government code that is on point here.
Yeah, I'll look at that for you.
It could be changing our policy from 20 years, 5 years is completely under our control, not dictated by state code. If that's the case, then I am immediately satisfied that nobody's done anything wrong. But I'm also interested in understanding what the yields are from these other pots of money. Now the short-term stuff, Leaf and County, camp term, they must all reveal to, I don't want to say the public, but to their customers like us, what their average yield is right now. And if it's 1%, we're getting 3.5 from the 1.6 billion that's presumably not invested illegally. And we're probably looking at a wise decision to have somebody with lower rates than PFMAM manage the 1.6 million. But until I know what it costs us for someone to manage the 5.975 million and the LAIF money, the county pool money, I don't know how we could decide what we think is a good thing to do.
Maybe staff can get a number for each of those categories.
I would hope so, yeah.
And bring it to the board with, what about the recommendation to Scott that we find an investment advisory service and rate them, several of them, and ask them for a proposal.
Yeah, that's an RFP.
Do you have any in mind already? Advisory, investment advisory services?
I did find optimized, and I'm happy to go out and look for others.
That apparently is not something PFMAM does.
They will for $25,000 minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I've had the conversation with Robert, and I think the reality is at one point PFM saw 25, just under 25 million for OVSD, and a possibility it may go higher, and that may have been
Not taking into account that a bunch of that 25 was fenced.
correct. Fenced and frankly,
I guess they could still invest it. It was fenced in terms of our spending it.
yeah, it was fenced, but at the same time, as of that 25, a significant portion was going to be cut to contractors for the. It was already spent. The check just hadn't been written and cashed.
Yeah, I think we should bring this to the entire board with some background information that we just discussed today, the values that Steve questioned, and might get a little bit of synergy from the rest of the board here, as far as their opinion on final hiring decisions.
Are you guys looking for me to let a request for qualifications and get a couple of teams, or is that too soon?
I would recommend to the board that you or somebody at least identify some people that would respond to requests for qualifications, not for quotes, but
Yes. Qualifications, professional services. I think it's prudent that we do qualifications.
and rates. But at this point, we've got several different pots of money in different places, and we don't really know how much of that would wind up being under management by someone that we contract with to do that. If all we're really talking about is managing $1.6 million, that's pretty easy to just pick a low number and as long as they're responsible for the firm. But those qualifications are separate from the quoted costs. But those could vary widely depending on how much we actually have in our pool. Now, you said, how much is in the county right now? Several million.
Several million.
And that's our big bank account.
That's our big bank account.
Now,
In
we have a
addition,
little bank account with Bank of the Sierra
correct.
that we write checks against. We don't write checks against county pool, but we move money into Bank of the Sierra from the county pool whenever we need it. It's like $500,000 to $1 million a month.
As the checks are pressed, that amount is moved from the county into the Bank of the Sierra. The reason being is if we go back and look at some of the old, the last 6-ish months of agenda packets, I have been listing the interest rates, the recent interest rates that each of the accounts has been paying. The lowest paying account is Bank of the Sierra, so I'm trying to keep as little money in that as possible. And Leif, we just haven't touched. I don't. It is what it is.
One wonders why it's there.
That's one does. I think it's probably
Area Investment Fund, is that?
local area investment fund. Yep, local area investment fund. The money's there. It's earning interest. Sometimes it's yielding more than the other accounts.
Is it hard? Is that LAIF money really liquid?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, is it liquid on the tune of days to weeks to within a week? I don't know that. It's relatively liquid. And the counties.
The county money is liquid in terms of days.
I think so. That's my understanding.
Days to a week.
Yes. Yeah. Days to a week, it's liquid. The only detriment with the county that I have seen is that the continuous compounding doesn't really happen. In that when we
Saves them money. That's
yes, in that when we receive an interest payment, we get about half of the interest payment, about 60 to 70. I'd have to go back and look at the exact numbers. Significant length of time, weeks to months after when it has been determined, and we get the second payment another couple weeks to months after that. So you are missing out on continuous compounding from the county. If we had
Financial institution.
if we had tens of millions, it would make a difference. Yeah, it's not adversely.
small number times several million is
Sure.
notable number.
It's a notable number.
You know, in years past, the subject isn't new, by the way.
Okay. I didn't know that.
We've had county, community banks come in here and pitch their services and their advantages. Locally, or, locally managed, and they come in with a pretty good pitch, and you almost invite 1 or 2 local community banks and see if they can compete.
Bank of the Sierra is fairly small, I think.
I don't know how many branches. They've got multiple branches. In my conversations I've had with them, I've been
Not anywhere near the Sierras.
We had Edward Jones in. Edward Jones came in. I remember the fellow. I think he had a heart attack and passed away, but we had different services come in and pitch their approach, and they were all interesting. And for one reason or another, back then we chose. I think it's time to take a look at it. Sure. What's our recommendation for Scott here? I think we can find out what it costs us for each of those categories that we're spreading our money out. I know what it cost
Well,
for each one of those.
what it costs and what the rates are. Now, you said, and I apologize for not remembering in prior staff reports. Are we talking about Latham County yielding percent?
Oh, no, they're all competitive. They all exceed Bank of the Sierra. So Bank of the Sierra is, I think it's at 3.25% right now.
Sierra,
Bank of Sierra pays on the savings account. So the direction that there's two accounts at the Bank of Sierra. There's a savings account and a checking account. Money first goes in the savings and then it's a flip over into the checking. So when the checks are pressed, it flips in there. So we're trying to optimize that.
back up to the checking account.
So that's about 3.25. I think it's 3.25. When we originally renegotiated it, it came in at 3.5%. So it's dropped with interest rates down to 3.25. Leaf, the county, and Camp Pool are all running 3.75 to 3.9, maybe hitting 4.1, 4.2.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're competitive. For short term.
Bank of Sierra has 34. So they're big enough, but the issue
Are
that
they locally big enough?
well, they're through the Central Coast. They're based in where is this, Porterville, Southern San Joaquin, Central Coast. They don't go much further south than we are.
They have an office in Ventura, and they have the branch here.
Genoa, yeah.
If there's no advantage in changing, it makes sense to change just for change.
It's only a matter of simplifying the bookkeeping. If we have more of the money in one place.
It sounds like though, for sure that we get away from spending $25,000 for advisory.
Amen.
And
Think we need to recommend that we take up Mr. Montoya on his advice
Yeah.
that he's not a good deal for us.
I appreciate his.
And that's the mark of a fiduciary. They're supposed to say that.
He should be doing that. And that's good advice and we should take it.
Okay, anything else to mention to Scott for?
Not to Scott, I did the request of Dennis already that he give us some idea of the provenance of 53601 and its predecessors, let's call it. It's not clear what the predecessors are. Just dealing with the ADU law that we were the other day. The legislature in its wisdom has renumbered stuff. So it's not obvious.
Right.
That this thing actually used to be that thing. Maybe it was different when it was that thing, and maybe it wasn't. But yeah, whatever the topic is, if we can go back in history a little bit, say at least to 2019 when PFMAM started doing things for us. At least to understand, I guess one question would be, does the district's investment policy, does it follow state law or is it just our policy?
Right. Yeah.
And if it follows state law, did state law change? And what do we all need to do about that? If anything. Maybe there's nothing in state law. I'm sure there certainly are policies in place, and they're not necessarily our policies. They're state policies or something that say you have to invest in a certain quality of bonds and stuff like that. And maybe it's somewhere in that area that says this other stuff that I'm curious about, which is long-term versus short-term maturities. Maybe there's no restriction. As I said in the question that I asked, when I read the current 53601 government code, it sets no it is silent on the term any particular treasury bill or bond. And then it talks about medium-term bonds, which I'm presuming, well, it defines them. It doesn't say corporate or otherwise. I presume it's all corporate. But it doesn't say anything there about limits on the terms of those medium-term bonds either. So I'm a little concerned that we might not be following the law. I'm not terribly concerned, but don't know what the law is,
Right.
what it used to be. See if we have any problems there.
Right.
And then the rest is all, what do we do now, knowing that we have this much here and that much there and that much there? And what's it costing us and what's it yielding? And it's not exactly reducing it to a formula. It gets a lot closer to that, or an optimum investment policy.
Sounds like a plan. So will this, what's the timing on this, Scott? Can this appear on our next board meeting, or do we need another month beyond that?
I think we're gonna need another month.
Yeah.
It's my
I was to say, the next board meeting's about 2.5 weeks away.
2.5 weeks away, and we've got a short, internally, some short deadlines.
So that'll be our target.
Okay.
On our agenda, we have item 6, reports. I'm not sure that that's appropriate here, but A, committee members pursuant to government code 549542.
It talks about committee members reporting what's going on.
Okay, and also general manager on district activities related to this board thing along those lines.
Information, yes, information came into me today, and I don't mean to do this, but I would like to set up another finance committee. So if we can work to set up another finance committee, it'd be prudent.
Say when, we know the where.
Yeah, just zip out an email and we'll tackle it. Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you, Dennis.
Understanding that Lowell is going to be gone for another 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks. It was something like that, from the 6th through the 20-something of March. It's going to be out.
Yeah, I don't think he's here for the board meeting. Be back.
That's the
7th, I think, or something, isn't
23rd.
it? Yeah.
I think he's gone past the board meeting.
It's the 23rd.
Okay, at this time, I think we will adjourn the finance committee.
Did the general manager give us his comments? Anything else you want to add?
Nothing else I need to add. I appreciate everybody's time and effort. I know this is a lot of numbers and a lot of finances and a lot of law. So I appreciate people's time and effort.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
We're now-
everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Adjourn meeting at 5:13.